Welcome, mourners. Welcome to the Court of the Deadstream. I'm Satine Phoenix. I'll be your Arcaneist, your guide into the underworld. We have an amazing, inspiring show today, and there's going to be so much to ignite your inner aetherosity. We have really cool guests. So the guests today are Pat Marino and Ross Thompson from the Op. They're here to talk about our tabletop game called Court of the Dead, Mourner's Call. And also we have Clarissa Thorne, author of A Geek's Guide to Cross Stitch. She's here with a very special surprise. So stay tuned. We'll have an inside look into Court of the Dead, Mourner's Call after this short video recapping how the underworld infiltrated San Diego Comic-Con last month.
All right.
Welcome back. I have some amazing guests here today. I have Pat Marino, manager of game design at the Op. He also designed Mourner's Call, and Ross Thompson, the marketing manager at the Op. Now we have a live show happening right now. You're watching us live. Therefore, live Q&A, put your questions in the chat and they will get asked later on. But right now, if you are unfamiliar with Court of the Dead, Mourner's Call, I'm going to give you some fun facts about it. Okay, fact number one. It was successfully kickstarted in April 2018. Fact number 2, Kickstarter exclusive edition will ship in just a few weeks. And there was a retailer tier in the Kickstarter, so Sideshow, being a retailer, swooped up some boxes, and you can get them while supplies last at side.show/mourners call. There's only a few of them, so grab them up. Okay, are you ready? Are you guys ready?
Yes.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, welcome.
Good to be here.
I have so many questions. They're all written right here.
Awesome.
But I want to jump into the game. Yes, you guys are wonderful, but I want to know all about Mourner's Call. So, Pat, you made it.
Yes.
Can you give us an overview?
Yeah, so the game tells the overarching kind of story of Court of the Dead Mourner's Call. So we wanted to introduce fans to this world through the gameplay. So it takes a big picture look at how the underworld functions, how they are trying to unite to eventually overthrow heaven and hell. And so players have their own vision of how they're going to unite the underworld, right? So they're playing to an ulterior motive, that's their hidden objective, and they're trying to recruit different mourners, different key characters from the story, and use Death's Court, who are the big characters in the game, to take special actions that will help them kind of further their independent cause or their independent vision of uniting the underworld. And it's got card drafting, it's got some area control, some area majority, a lot of different things going on to make each game feel unique. And it gives you that big strategy experience in like a nice 90-minute window, which is really cool because what ends up happening is you play one of those hidden objectives, and then you kind of want to reset the game and then try it from a different strategy or a different approach, and it makes each experience different.
That's awesome. So Ross actually walked me through this at San Diego Comic-Con.
Great.
And it's really intense. This is the Kickstarter version, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what are some of the highlights that this one has specifically?
Yeah, so this one has some upgrades to it. So one of the things, it has unique box sleeves. So fans, of course, know that there's the 3 key factions of Bone, Flesh,
Which we
and
brought
Spirit.
today.
Yeah, so we have the sleeves here, and each one has this great unique art piece to it that highlights one of the factions. And so backers were able to choose if they wanted the spirit, the flesh, and then we have the bone sleeve. Yeah, so
I'm just going to hide behind all of these because they're amazing. Yeah, they're absolutely beautiful. Again, like the box, they have embossing, right? The gloss embossing.
Yes.
I don't know why that is so exciting to me, but it really is. It just shows like the level of detail that Sideshow has. It's very consistent.
Yeah, and we really wanted to celebrate that in every aspect of the game. So the whole unboxing of the game is very intentional and layered. So as the components come out to really show it off. Some of the other upgrades we have in the Kickstarter. So we have a 5th player, so you can play with an extra person. In the Kickstarter version, which is really special. And then, with that, there are some extra figures and things to make that feasible. And then really the highlight or the key upgrade here is a lot of metal components. And so, for example, we have some of these great metal coins.
Cool. So, can we show it?
Yeah, we can definitely do that. So, I don't know how close we can get in on these here, but these are...
Right? Look at all those guys.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure the sound folks are not happy with the metal noises there, but...
This is a really cool, unique design.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of wanted to go for like a stamped, almost like a pirate coin kind of feel with that, the Unity tokens. And they feature the 3 faction logos and then the Underworld United logo on the back.
That's cool.
Which kind of speaks to the gameplay quite a bit. And then the player boards for the Kickstarter version are these great double layer boards.
Oh, yeah.
So they have the recessed pieces to hold your different components. And then they have these great metal skulls that actually nest into these tracks. To track your influence in the 3 factions, and these slide right along the tracks, so you can see as you track, they kind of notch in there and stay all organized and neat, and everything's kind of upgraded there with that. And then the faction tokens are also done in metal.
So beautiful.
As you declare for your faction, you've got these great metal tokens to show other players if you're representing Bone, Flesh, or Spirit, and those notch right into the recessed cavity on the player board to really just make it pop.
That's absolutely gorgeous. So this is the Kickstarter exclusive edition, and we have some available on side.show/mourners call. Go to there and pick one up because this is very, very sexy. Cool. So Ross, there's a retail version?
There is a retail version.
Yes, tell us about this.
So in the retail version, it's going to go into stores. So we're really excited for the Kickstarter version that's been coming out. But everybody that missed it, we've had some people asking, oh my gosh, I want to make sure that I can get the game. So we made a retail version. that comes, as Pat said, has 4 players in it, and then all the metal components are for chit. So all the little Unity coins and the faction coins and so on, they're really, really nice quality. And it's just a really good version that we're going to get right into game stores, which is going to be super cool. And it's going to be available later this year.
Awesome. Well, this is remarkable. It's actually really intense. Like there's so much detail to it. And how many pieces are there? 96 or something?
Yeah, I mean, if you
On the
have
back of the box,
card,
it'll tell
there you
us.
go.
Yeah, we've got 93
93.
metal pieces and like 70 figures and all kinds of cool stuff, right?
Wow,
So,
that's amazing.
and it's
Okay.
packed full.
So, Pat,
Yes.
how do you even start designing a game like this?
Yeah, it's no small task because there's so much story to it, right? And there's so much depth to the characters and everything else. So when I knew I was going to be working on this game, the first thing I did was consume every piece of content available. So I got the Chronicle and I went through the hardcover book and I sort of did that preliminary, okay, top level, let me get into this. And then for each character, for each asset, kind of digging down deeper to think how would they function in a game? What mechanics would match with who they are and what they do? And what was really central to this is, of course, Tom is a gamer and has experience in that area and was very much involved in the development and the testing of the game. So he was able to set me on course with, this character who has storyline that's not fully out yet, you want to lean them this way, or let's add in this piece. And he was really instrumental in helping to develop an experience that feels authentic to the story. So it wasn't about just does the game work, but does it evoke that tension between what's good for me versus what's good for the greater good. And I think that's what a lot of people have really enjoyed about the game is you're put in this position where if you're too selfish or too greedy and pushing your own objective, it can have catastrophic consequences for everybody.
Oh, that's
and
interesting.
so a clever strategy sometimes can be to figure out how to use those moments that are good for everybody but are secretly good for you. So you can kind of look like the hero who's uniting the underworld, but really you're doing the selfish, like hidden objective thing at the same time, and finding ways to make that work. So that tension is always present in the gameplay, which is a lot of fun.
So it's very complex. There's a lot of lore.
Yes.
You worked very closely with Tom?
Yes, very much so. So we spent a lot of time driving up to the office and play testing and showing different versions of the cards and talking through with Tom. Okay, I'm thinking of using this character in this way, and he would kind of steer it and say, well, they should be a little meaner, or no, they're more helpful, and trying to kind of make sure that everything matched up and synced up, not only with the content that's available now, but to make sure that everything was going to also be authentic for content coming in the future. And so being able to work hand in hand with a creator like that to make sure that it wasn't just a functional game, but it was a very deep thematic game that matched with the story was really, really awesome.
That's really cool because, I know a lot about Court of the Dead. Our fans know a lot about it, but is there stuff that's in here that'll be kind of eye-opening to people?
I think a little bit, and it's subtle, and I think that's what's going to be really cool is what's in the game. From what I know and talking with Tom and some of the pieces we did in development, I think as more comes to light with Court of the Dead, there will be things that maybe not at the outset were super obvious, but later on it'll be like, oh, that's why this goes this way, and that's really cool. So I think it'll be a great fan experience to be able to kind of connect those things together and say, okay, it's a great game experience, but I wonder why this is happening, and look for some of those subtle clues.
One of the things I love about this is how dynamic and how many levels of social puzzles there are to it. What's it like creating something at this scale?
It's a pretty big undertaking. I think we were over a year in development and testing, and that was really a lot of aggressive, get it to the table as many times as we can and test and test and test. And what's really kind of fascinating about the experience is when you have so many moving pieces, sometimes combos and strategies start to emerge that weren't always surface level, oh yeah, we're going to build a combo that works this way. It's sort of, well, this character should work this way and this faction should function that way. And then some synergies started to evolve naturally within the gameplay that kind of then informed other changes and updates and adjustments. And one of the things I really enjoyed too is with the court deck, which is the key main characters, right, is every time we felt like they weren't perfectly balanced, this one's too good compared to this one, the solution was often bring everyone up to the best level.
Oh, cool.
I think a lot of times in game development this one's too powerful, so bring it down. But those are the most powerful characters in the story, so it just made sense that as players look at it and they learn the strategy, they're like, oh, this card's good, but so is this card, but so is this card, but they're all really good, and then you realize, but your opponents have equally powerful cards. So it's balanced, and you feel really powerful until you realize everyone is, and then you have to kind of figure out how to outmaneuver. But yeah, there's a lot of testing, a lot of development, a lot of just getting the game to the table as many times as you can, and then figuring out, sometimes you get surprises of, oh, that was a strategy I didn't think of, and it's kind of broken, and then you have to figure out how to dial it back and adjust it to keep the game fair.
Cool. Ross, I heard that this game has a lot of awards, yes?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
It's very exciting.
Can you tell us about them, or tell them about them?
Yeah, so we had a few. We actually just got one at Gen Con. The Gaming Trend, they run a really cool website where they came by, and we were a part of their top 20 games of Gen Con, where they were really games people were really excited for, people are looking forward to, and so we had Mourners called that was out on our big display at our booth, and Keith and the group, they came by and they were like, oh my gosh, it's here, guess what, we have this thing for you, and it was one of their one of our top 20 games of Gen Con,
oh, cool.
Which was really neat to have, and we were so excited that got to be a part of that as well. And then over the last year, as the game has been being made and kind of finishing everything as we get ready to deliver, we picked up a lot of highly anticipated awards. So Man vs. Meeple had it on there. We can't wait for this game to come out list, and there were a couple other blogs too that this was on there. This game needs to come out now. We need to play it right away. So it's been on this top. People really excited for it and kind of anxious to get it on the table. So it's been really cool to get awards on that caliber. Yeah.
Well, would it be cool if we opened the box and
oh, yeah,
kind of took a peek in?
We totally can.
I just want to touch all the things.
No, you're not wrong, right? Yeah. So we already pulled some of the stuff out, but I think
cool.
we should just go ahead and just go for it, right? So.
All right.
So this box is literally hot off the pallet.
So heavy.
Yeah.
I need help.
Yeah, right? I was like, oh, you can make it happen, yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to cooperate, right?
Yeah.
It's a snug fit, but there we go.
Yes.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay, so this is what I was super gaga about before that I really want to show
Right.
everybody. This board is the coolest. It's massive. It takes a village, but it is absolutely beautiful. I love the.
It's just fantastic.
Can you see that?
All the art came out really well.
That's so cool.
So Pat, this is all new art too, right?
Yeah, so this was original art that was done for the game and specifically to show the city of Ilverness and the way it needed to be depicted and function for the game. And then we were able to do this nice spot gloss treatment, so all of the ethereal rivers that go through the map have this nice spot varnish to them, so they kind of shimmer and shine depending on your light. And then the rest of the board has a nice matte finish to it, so that really functions well for gameplay. Because sometimes if you have a glossy board and you have the bright lights, it's oh, what does that space say? But it balances really nicely.
I'm if I move it,
Right.
can you see the shimmer? No? Yeah, maybe a little bit. No? Trust us, it is fantastic. Yeah, I like that level of detail because it you feel it is where a lot of energy and life come from. So having that kind of stand out on
Right.
a static board is really cool. But you also have these minis. Can you talk about the minis a little bit?
Yeah, so we knew obviously doing a game with Sideshow right from the start had to have miniatures in it. And that detail was going to be important, and that the sculpting was going to be really a key part of it. So
I guess it won't come out, but wow!
Oh, it's just taped in.
I know the
Yeah.
tape is my nails don't get along with tape.
There we go.
Yeah, so this top tray has all of the guild figure miniatures. So there's 6 unique sculpts, and then a set of for each one. So they're kind of aligned vertically, so it keeps everything nicely organized. One of the things I really like is some games take a long time to set up because of all the minis, and you can literally just take this whole tray out, set it on your table, and then pop the lid off.
Yes.
And it's ready to go. And each of these sculpts is a unique one. Tom was nice enough to send us some character poses of kind of the positions they should be in, and then our 3D manager, Darren Donahue, took that and started evolving it with some character art and sketches to bring these about and then share them back to the Sideshow team for development. And then, of course, in the bottom tray, you see we have the Raker figures down in the bottom right there, and then the giant Death and Alvestros figures. And then along the side, you have Kier, Odium, and Demethyl, who have their own unique sculpts because they're key characters in the court deck that actually get to come into play and be present on the board and really add to that immersion.
Well, I can't believe how detailed these prints are. Like, that's remarkable.
Yeah, they came out really well, and we put in some extra work too on Kier and Demethyl over the last couple of months, and we really love how they came out.
Yeah.
It really pops. So it's I'm looking forward to seeing everybody popping on the table and seeing how they get painted too.
I was
right?
gonna say, That's cool. Yeah. So all of you mourners out there that get this, definitely post your paints because we want to see them. I'm not gonna know how to put this away. But while you guys figure that out, since you're the experts, I'm going to whip up some questions from our wonderful audience.
Sounds good.
Okay. Oh boy. The precious. I really just want to frame that too.
Oh yeah, a good shadow box in this thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Can you multitask? That's the question. No, that's not the question. The question is from Jamie Dewberry. How did you decide on the structure of the game's moves and play style from the various styles that exist in tabletop gaming?
Great question. When we started, actually, we were considering a dungeon crawl and telling a more focused story about the Dreadsbane Order and kind of going into that level. And as we started to kind of throw around ideas and get into it more, we had the concept I mentioned earlier of going back to, like, how do we tell a big picture story? And once we kind of decided on that direction, it pointed us mechanically to certain types of gameplay. So we knew we wanted to represent the three factions really strongly, so that gave us the influence track. We played a bunch of games that exist in sort of the area control, area majority space, and tried to figure out like what thematically felt close to Court of the Dead and what we wanted to do. And then we just did a lot of testing and trial and error of, okay, let's try this. Does this feel right? We knew kind of we wanted that map piece in the center for the main game board to show off the big picture. We knew we needed some elements that really told the story of the tension and the conflict between heaven and hell and the underworld. So there's some tracks and things that represent that, and we knew we needed the dread script in there, so that added another piece, right? And
all
so,
the things.
Yeah, so for each sort of thematic element, we looked at like mechanically what best conveys that aspect of the story, and then how do we build those layers in. So it really did evolve from theme. The whole gameplay and everything, we let the story push us and guide us to the mechanics that we used.
Oh, that's beautiful. The next question is from JJ Joe. Any plans to play it with Tom, Anna, and others, record it and upload it?
No, so we could totally do that.
Yeah.
I think Satine,
Yes.
we were talking earlier before how we got to make it happen, right? So I think we should do that.
Yeah.
There is a Game the Game with Court of the Dead,
Oh,
where we played with Becca and Tom.
Yes.
And so we won't spoil who won, but Pat and Tom definitely have a ongoing back and forth. So, but yeah, I think we should definitely play again with the new set. So when that happens, we should make it happen.
It'd be really cool if we played it and then like rotated like musical chairs, so one person has to step out and another new person comes in, and then one of the old people have to step out in the next game and see how, like, as people start learning how to play it, like there are different strategies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I got a whole show for this in my head.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
The next question, Jamie Dewberry, thank you for all of your questions. It is, as Pat got into the Court of the Dead lore, what aspects did you like best?
Ooh. So some of it is individual characters that I love. So I'm a big Ravlatch fan, and his whole story arc and everything about him is really fun. So developing his character card was both challenging and fun because, as a fan of his character, it's like you want to get it just right. I like the tension between the different factions. There's certain ways that even in the gameplay they synergize, but then they also don't sometimes. I'm definitely bone faction aligned. So as somebody who does game mechanics, I'm more in that like rules and structure kind of thing because that's where I come from, kind of background wise. And so definitely gravitated towards that. And there's some aspects of the lore that, as you go through the Chronicle, are kind of touched on that like I find really fascinating and look forward to kind of seeing where they evolve. I know a lot of our backers at one point really latched on to the Sanguine Heresy and sort of like, well, what's that story? When's that coming? And I think that's what I really like is the potential, is knowing there's so many directions and so much individual story that's to come. I think that's what got me really excited.
Is it hard for you not to be like accidentally spoiler things to your friends?
I think Tom is good about keeping some of the secrets and holding back. So while I feel like I know some things and big picture and where the story's going, it's not like I have, I've read all the future books and things like that. So I think that's helped me to do that, because that's a big part of what we do with licensed games is sometimes you know things and you have to just kind of...
You know too much.
Yeah, keep that in your pocket. All the time. Yeah.
Well, I don't want you to be left out. So what are some of your favorite things now that you've gone swimming in this for the last how many months?
It's been pretty neat. Yeah. It's been about 10 months now that I've been diving deep on Court of the Dead. First off, like the game for me was, I think, one of the coolest things. I know it isn't like super into the lore, but just even coming back and being able to play the game with Pat after seeing the Kickstarter and all of that was just super fun. I love area control games, so this game really kind of dives deep, and that was kind of my first look into really what Court of the Dead and all the lore was. But I'm kind of a big fan of Kier and all of her stories that she gets to do, and I kind of look forward to seeing where that's all going, especially with like the animated series on its way and some of that stuff. I'm looking forward to seeing where all of that kind of plays in. And I've been a big Spirit faction guy, so I like playing around with all of their cards when that goes into the game. So it's pretty neat.
Well, that was the next question. That was actually the next question from Jamie Dewberry was, what was your factions? But now you know. So do you have anything else you would like to share with our wonderful mourners?
Pretty much stay tuned. Like, we're really excited. Like, the game is really close to kind of getting ready. We have a couple more updates to go with Quartermaster on the game going out. We'll have some more updates as everything gets ready to ship out, and we're really excited for that. And then once the retail version is good to go, we have a lot more stuff lined up with some cool content, and I'm excited to kind of show that all off. So it's more on the way.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for being with us today and sharing this amazingness that is Mourner's Call. And if you guys want to pick up, I've got to get my link, pick up your copy of the Kickstarter edition, very limited edition, side.show/Mourner's Call. Go get it right now. And, yeah. When do I get my copy?
Let's make it happen.
Can I bully you into getting me a copy?
Totally can.
Sweet, done. That was the easiest bullying I've ever done. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you. Glad to be on the show.
One of the guilds featured in Mourner's Call is the Flesh Faction's Stitch Witch Coven, and our next guest would fit right at home with these crafty ranks. So, stay tuned. We will be right back with our geeky cross-stitch crafter, Clarissa Thorne, after this short video break. See you soon.
Do I look like a servant? And yet, here I am again, giving that which I hold most precious to those who value it no more than fire values the ashes it leaves behind. I am tasked by fate, delivering souls to heaven and hell in precisely equal portions. For eons I have served. Never an offering missed, nor favoritism showed to either side. Yet, they are endlessly suspicious. They do not count my offerings so much as they weigh their own pride against the other's greed. I could set a watch to this silent dance of contempt if I cared about such a thing as time. Nevertheless, They dare not disturb this ancient ritual. Divided by their hate and blinded by their arrogance, they will come to learn both as their weakness. Hidden within the underworld, my secret cadre of souls gives me hope. Each one unique and precious. They are my purpose and my strength. But strength in careless hands is a liability. My children yearn for freedom, to rise up and bring an end to this perverse game of ruination. But they must yet sleep. So my master's hatred stays focused on each other. Soon I shall awaken my children, and in their revelation, see my master's arrogance erased. I will show them how poorly their pride weighs against the spirit of creation, and for the first time, they will know terror. On that day, I will no longer be a servant, and the universe will finally gaze upon the true face of death.
Welcome back, mourners. I have an amazing ethereosity here with me today. Clarissa Thorne is a geeky crafter who quilts, paints, and cross-stitches her way through pop culture. She's the author of this book, A Geek's Guide to Cross-Stitch, Journeys in Space. This is actually really cool. Also, the foreword was written by my friend Bonnie Burton. What a fun surprise. You can follow her adventures on her blog, unexpectedhobby.com. Thank you for being here.
I'm so excited to be here. This is amazing.
And this is like the most fun surprise. This
know.
is awesome. Before we start, can I spoil
absolutely.
some, like, what can we find in here?
You can spoil everything in there.
Okay.
You're gonna find our solar system in there. This is my celebration of being a space nerd and loving everything NASA has ever done. The International Space Station and name a NASA mission. I tried to fit it in there at some point. Next stop Mars.
That's
I know
really
that's
cool.
a Curiosity rover. So yeah, everything I love about robots that fly around in space is in that book.
Awesome. Thank you so
Thank
much. You know this is a live show,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So, You guys out there, if you have any questions, you should write them down in chat. And then at the end of our little interview, I will ask them. It's nice how that works, huh? Okay, I have questions for you.
Yes.
Okay. First of all, hi. Second is, how did you get into crafting?
The short answer is postpartum depression, which is probably not the place we thought we would go with that question. But it really, you know, my son is 12 years old now, and when he was born, I spent a period of time really just, you know, subsumed by the things that can follow along after you've had a child, and crafting and the idea of going out and trying to find something creative to do that was for myself, at least initially, was just something that came out of needing to be something more than a mother, something more than, you know, what that can kind of pigeonhole you into, I think. So it literally just put me into a craft store at a certain point. I just walked in the door and started walking up and down aisles trying to find something that I could do with my hands that would be creative, or at least teach me how to use my brain in a creative way.
That's beautiful.
And I really kind of gravitated to the embroidery section and started to do, and I started with cross stitch, and I branched out to embroidery and quilting and playing around with watercolors, because once you start to kind of, you know, get into the design side of things, watercoloring, painting seems to help a little bit. But for the most part, cross stitch is really where I have settled, and I think it's because cross stitch it's straightforward. It involves creativity, but it also is very soothing and structured and mathematical in a way that lets me work on a project, and it involves me in kind of just like a meditative function, I guess, as well.
That's really nice.
So that brings us back to the postpartum depression, and, you know, kind of having something that you can do that is meditative but creative and artsy at the same time. So
Wow, that sounds really intense, but also beautiful that you found something that you can learn about yourself with.
Mm-hmm.
So you do a lot of stuff with pop culture. How did you first come up with ideas? What inspired you?
Well, I think at the time that I was starting, I was recognizing that I could be a creative person and that I could be a crafty person. I was also recognizing that I was a geek and that I am a geek. And I think the things that inspired me, at least initially, was, when I first started doing this 12, 15 years ago, I wasn't very savvy about finding things on the internet, or, Etsy wasn't really a word that I knew at the time. For instance, Pinterest was not helping me. So I spent some years really frustrated trying to find things that I wanted to stitch that were an inspiration to me. And it took me a while to connect, I love these other things over here. I love science fiction. I love science. I love post-apocalyptic dystopias, and how to bring those things together. Once my brain did that, and I started looking for inspiration and joining up those two things, then the floodgates opened, and there's no end of inspiration now.
That is very true.
So, yeah.
Okay, so you started doing this thing for yourself. What made you branch out and start sharing it with other people?
Really, I think primarily finding a community of people to stitch with, and also going along on that search of trying to find something that I wanted to do for myself. You become very, very aware that I'm not the only person out there trying to do that, right? There are other people out there who are looking to connect whatever it is they are a fan of, their fandom, whether it's gaming or movies or superheroes, whatever, zombies, whatever it might be, they're looking for that too. And once I connected with groups of people that were doing the same kind of, it wasn't all cross-stitch, but they were doing the same kind of creative tasks, you start talking about these things, and that just moved me forward into, I'm going to do my own designs. They can't just be for me. There's a very brief window of time there where I was designing for myself, and then I realized, this is ridiculous. You can't just do it for yourself. You need to be doing it for other people as well. So
Oh, that's
Yeah,
cool. Like, did you
funny.
start with your family and then kind of branched out, or is this kind of your thing that you do away from them?
My husband is an artist. He draws zombies and a lot of other scary things. So I think artistic endeavors in our family is something that I'm very used to. And those things kind of cross over at times. But more so just going out and finding, and I'm a very introverted person. I think finding a craft that you like to do, something with your hands that other people are doing, is a really great way for introverts to go find other introverts and be in a space where you're like, oh, okay, I can sit and do this and we'll talk about all of this. But it's still a nice, soothing, not overwhelming activity for those of us who, don't want to be bombarded socially all the time, right?
Yeah.
But finding other people to do this endeavor with. I very quickly found a group of women near my house who are involved in a group called Geek Girls Forever. We get together and do gaming and book clubs and crafting name a craft, they're doing it, which is great. I also found a local, to the LA area, a local convention. It's an annual convention every year called Craftcation.
Really?
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's 4 days in Ventura, right off the beach. It is crafting classes, and it's kind of two sides. It's if you want to just go and learn how to do a wide variety of crafts, they have workshops for 4 days doing that. But they also have workshops teaching you how to manage a DIY business and being an entrepreneur and how to handle social media and all of those kinds of topics as well. But more so than that, it's just a group of 500 women. It's kind of the San Diego Comic-Con of the crafting world is how I feel about it, because it's all of those people who really, really love doing what they're doing, whether it's, again, cross-stitch or making jewelry or sewing or being a quilter or whatever that is. They really love those things, and we get together for 4 days every year and just geek out San Diego Comic-Con style about
Do you guys
all of that stuff.
work together on projects, or?
Yeah, working together on projects, helping each other with business interests, teaching each other, figuring out how to merge crafts as well. Cross stitch is something
jewelry with cross stitch, or
cross stitch with quilting, cross stitch with sewing, or all of that kind of stuff.
That's really awesome.
At a minimum, it's just a great group of people.
So, okay, now I have 2 questions.
Yes.
I have many, many more questions, but the first 2 that come to mind are, what is the most intense, elaborate thing you've done? And then the second question is, what's the most elaborate thing you've done with someone else?
Oh my goodness. Well, I'd categorize it in 2 ways. The most complicated thing that I've done cross-stitch wise was very early on in learning cross-stitch, because again, I was out there trying to find things that I wanted to do, and I couldn't, I was going into craft stores and I couldn't find anything other than and there's nothing wrong with them, but little, puppies and kitties that say I'm happy. And that was not entirely my thing. And I found myself on Amazon Japan and buying Japanese cross-stitch books, and I came across an artist, I hope I'm not writing her name, is Kazuko Aoki. I think you can still find her books on secondary markets out there, but she is an artist, watercolor artist, who takes beautiful watercolored botanical scenes and turns them into cross-stitch patterns. And so some of the first cross-stitch patterns I did were huge, 18 by 24 botanical, incredibly detailed, and had so many different floss colors involved with them, and all of the instructions were in Japanese.
Oh, no.
And so, which speaks to how incredibly wonderful cross stitch is in a way, because it is something that I could look at and with very minimal instructions figure out how to do it almost from the get-go. But those were,
or learn Japanese.
Yeah, exactly. Learn Japanese, and those were designs that took me 3, 4, 5 months to do, because it just, there was that much going on in them. And projects with other people, I would have to say my book brought me out of, just doing cross-stitch designs, which obviously that involved quite a bit. There are 25 designs in the book, but it also brought me out in doing book layout and thinking about artwork, and I have to give a lot of credit to Oceana Ronsford, who is my book designer, an incredible guy who's been nominated for an Eisner, I think, for lettering and various things.
I was going to say, this is a very nice typesetting situation.
I mean, I was, you know, it's all about space exploration, and being a science fiction fan, I was like, you know, I really wanted to have that old sci-fi, you know, dime novel kind of look to it. And it turned out really, really well. I was really pleased by that. So, and my publisher the publisher of the book is Fanbase Press. They're an independent comic book publisher.
Oh, cool.
Which is another way I think I found to work kind of outside of the box, as opposed to, you know, I want to do a cross-stitch book or I want to do a craft book. So I didn't go look for a craft book publisher. I thought, you know, I go to comic book conventions, I'm part of that world. I feel like what I'm doing should be presented first in that world, right? Like, I want to put something out there that's something that people can do for themselves, something that encourages them to be creative, not just consuming what they love about their fandom, but being creative about it too.
Yeah.
So that seemed like a good fit.
That's
at the
really
time.
smart,
Yeah.
actually.
I hope so, yeah.
So what universes are you a fan of?
Well, we have to come back to science fiction right away, and I'm a huge Star Trek fan, and I am a Aliens fan, and I've been really, really into The Expanse that was on Sci-Fi and is now coming to Amazon Prime and in the 4th season. I can't wait for that. That's kind of space opera.
I just binged that, actually.
My God, it's so good.
It's really good.
Space opera is, a really big thing. But I also love post-apocalyptic dystopia and zombies and dark, really kind of gritty things.
So do you have gritty cross-stitch?
I have some zombie-themed cross-stitch patterns that are individual kits and patterns that you can get. And I, in thinking about this is hopefully will be a series of books, because it starts off, it's a geek's guide to cross-stitch. And I'm not sure what direction it might go next, but one of those directions, one of those paths, I would love to be horror, murder, blood, mayhem, something.
But kind of adorable at the same time.
But adorable, yes, so that you can hang it on your wall or stitch it into a pillow. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. And we love that here.
Yeah.
And I heard that you have something very special to share with our mourners.
I know. I was invited to do a design for
Yes.
Court of the Dead, which I am a newbie to Court of the Dead, but boy, let me tell you, it did not take me 2 seconds of looking at this world to get inspired and to come up with something. So I did what I'm hoping is fits in that middle ground of absolutely being about the property and kind of having that subversive flair to it, but being decorative and something that you want to put on your wall as well.
Or a pillow.
Yeah, or a pillow. I mean, seriously, anything that you could sew something into, it could go in a dress. It could go in a jacket. It could go in a quilt.
One of those silk jackets, you know what I'm talking about? Where they usually have the dragon on the back.
Nice little
This would be
panel in the
so
back.
cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you talk about the details?
It's the Rise Conquer rule, obviously, and I wanted it to not necessarily be representative of any particular character, but to have that feeling of the entire universe in it. And as far as the cross stitch design, it's pretty straightforward. Cross stitch stitches are really just the full stitch that you do, which are the little X's. And then there's some straight stitching in it as well, and not really anything else. I think it works really well as a kind of beginner to intermediate design. I do, and it's probably a little bit hard to see from the camera angle, but quite a bit of the detail in here, and then in the eyes, and then
it's
this
all
little
metallic
scar. Those are all metallic floss, so they catch the light. They're a little bit different. In the eyes, I blended 2 different thread colors. There's black and the blue.
Oh, that's so cool.
I
feel very naughty looking at the backside of this.
Oh, yeah, and I brought it in its not quite finished state, because I would love for people to be imaginative, right, about how they think about how they can use cross stitch. It's not just something that you put in a frame, or you can land it so many different places, like we were talking
Yeah.
about. Pretty much anything you could sew it into. It's, you know, kind of the sky's the limit
Yeah.
on your imagination.
This is really
Yeah.
cool.
So this is pretty much how it looks coming off of my, you know, I use a stand frame to do most of the bigger stitching that I do, and that's pretty much how it looks coming off of that. Yeah, I liked it. It was a really fun pattern to stitch.
I stitched like when I was 12 maybe. So for people like me who aren't very familiar,
Yeah.
what kind of tools do you use?
So many people I talk to about stitching are like, oh, I did it when I was a kid. And
That one time I helped
for
with one
years and
quilt.
years. I did bring a few things. One of the things that I brought is the actual pattern document that I created to go with it. And I always give anyone who's buying one of my patterns just a basic set of instructions and things that they would want to have to start doing embroidery of any kind, but cross stitch in particular. And some things that I find really, really handy to have. Of course, you're going to be working with needles a lot. So if you can go on Etsy or pretty much anywhere and find little magnetized needle minders that let you stick your needle, you put them on the stitching itself while you're working.
Cool.
And that way you hopefully don't end up with 5 million needles in the carpet at your feet.
I'm guilty.
Because that can be worse than a Lego.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, I think half the reason to do embroidery or cross stitch at all is just so that you can collect embroidery scissors, which are very specific. They're small. They're very thin pointed at the top so that you can snip very, fine detail when you need to cut things or deal with thread. And they come in a world of designs, everything from little owls, the handles form an owl face, that kind of thing. I love that kind of stuff.
So do you match your scissors to what you're embroidering at the time, just to keep in theme?
I do have favorite scissors, and the ones that I'm using at the moment are very dark, like metal. I think they go very well with Court of the Dead. So
That's
yeah,
so
probably
cool.
I do. Embroidery floss is another really addictive thing. It's cheap. You get a lot of it. This is a sample of the metallic thread that is in the blue that's in the detail work. But it's just I have containers and containers.
bet.
We won't talk to my husband about how much embroidery
She hides the
floss
containers in her house.
that I have. I'll come up with a design and he'll look at it and I'll say I've got to go to the store and get 10
Yes,
colors.
obviously.
He's like, but you have all the colors already.
But you were
No.
very specific of which ones you want.
Yeah, I really don't.
So you guys can download this at side.show/stitch COTD.
Excellent.
Yes. Do you have any tips for new Stitch Witches?
I do. I mean, I have some broad tips and I have some very specific tips about getting started. Again, though, I would say that cross stitch, if you're looking to get started in needlework of any kind, embroidery, etc., cross stitch is a great way to go about doing that because it is, you're going to get a pattern that's going to tell you where and how and what stitches to make. It's going to be very easy for you to intuit and figure out how to get started. There aren't very many stitches to have to learn, and it's a really great springboard for then, I've done this cross stitch, now I'm going to look at perhaps some open embroidery off of a design where I figure out what stitches I want to make or what colors I want to use. This is a really good way for you to get the fundamentals before you jump into that. I would always recommend that people do start with a design that has just a few stitches, stitch types to begin with. And in terms of challenging elements in this pattern, I think the most challenging element is going to be working with a metallic floss, which is a different kind of thread to use. It's stiff, it's a little bit awkward. And in the instructions, I give you tips for you want to use shorter lengths of thread starting with those sections. You want to stitch more slowly and keep more control of the thread while you're doing it. But the other thing I always recommend, and this is about every single pattern that I design, if you find it difficult to work with metallic thread, for instance, change it out to something else. Find a different thread that's easier for you, a color that you like better. If you don't like the color palette in this design, there's a whole craft store waiting for you of embroidery floss. Kind of knock yourself out. I always want to encourage people to think about creative ways to be involved in anything that they're doing, and creative ways to be involved with the things that they love, their fandoms. There's no such thing as perfection. Believe me, if I look at this design that I stitched, I created this design, I stitched it myself, I'm probably missing a stitch somewhere in this design because there's no such thing as perfection.
You have to be okay with the missing stitch.
Absolutely. You have to be okay with, you know what, I'm new to this or I'm not new to this and this is how I did it and it made me happy.
That's awesome.
That's important.
Are you ready for some questions?
Yes, I hope so.
Because JJ Joe has 3, and I'm just going to spout them back to back because they're actually really cool. Has any of your work been sent to the ISS? Do you work with NASA in any capacity? Did you do anything for the 50th anniversary of the Apollo moon landing?
Oh my goodness. I'm working on a design right now that's not specific to the Apollo moon landing, but that is in my head. I'm a little late on that, but I'm working on actually a design that's a portrait of Curiosity rover, his little cute little robot face. I have never worked directly with NASA, but I have handed my book to some folks at NASA who seemed very, very giddy about it. So that's I get to fan out about that as well. Like geek girl all over NASA represented.
If anybody out there works with NASA, totally post it in our Facebook group because I want to see. I got to see these.
I would.
But more than that, get this pattern and then post it on our Facebook group. Our Facebook is what's our Facebook group?
Rise, Conquer, Rule.
Rise, Conquer, Rule Facebook group.
It's
go to
literally
there.
on the design. Oh, just kidding.
Yeah, it's literally right here. Go to here, and that'll be our next photo that we'll post as an advertisement for our Facebook group. Actually, that's a really cute idea. Can we get a pillow? I'll make this into a pillow. That'll be wonderful. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for this and sharing your history and your tips with all of our mourners. We will be back very shortly. We're going to just do a little short video, and then I have some final words to say to you wonderful, wonderful mourners. Well, that is our show, dear mourners. I want to give a special thank you to our wonderful guests, Pat Marino and Ross Thompson from the Op, and our geeky crafter, Clarissa Thorne. I want to hear from you guys. Go to our Facebook group, Rise, Conquer, Rule, for Court of the Dead, and share with us your thoughts on the game. Share with us your stitches. all of you Stitch Witches out there, share your photos, share everything in our comment section. And man, I really hate ending this thing. But Bree's going to put those links into the chat. And it was a pleasure being your Arcaneist. And until next time, rise, conquer, rule.